Welcome back to the Webby O'Neill channel, and this is going to be a bit of post-match therapy after yesterday's game. We're going to discuss some of the key highlights, also some pundits' reactions to the loss against Manchester City. As always, get involved in the chat today, Reds, because we want to hear your opinions, to be honest with you, and what we'll discuss them today, because we've got plenty of thoughts, ideas, so you get yours in the chat. Now, first of all, how are you feeling today?
Feeling all right, considering, I mean, let's get something straight here. What was I expecting? What was you expecting before we kicked off against City? When half-time come, I was over the moon. Couldn't believe the position we was in. But same thing again, no plan B when things go wrong. Looked at it and I thought to myself, no plan B, no plan B, no plan B. That's all people have been saying all year when things go wrong. And at the end of the day, that's the way it is.
That's the way it is, but did you expect a plan B yesterday when you look at the starting 11 that was put out and then you look at the substitutes bench?
No, it was the substitutes bench I looked at before the game kicked off. I thought, anything goes wrong here, people need to come off for injuries or anything. Whoever's coming on will not change that game, and that's what's been lacking for United. Realisation, really. Last night, try to get asleep, thinking about it. That's the way it is. I don't think it'll change, to be honest with you, going till the end of the season.
The way Manchester United actually set up, though, and, you know, we've read quite a few comments on last night's video and today, and a lot of people are mentioning tactics. The word tactics keeps coming up. Yeah. Capital letters, small letters, whatever you want to say, it's always tactics.
Yeah, it's in the alphabet.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Now, what did you think of the tactics and the way he set up yesterday?
I don't think anyone could complain. I wasn't complaining. I thought that was the way he had to set up. Get the ball long, try and get behind him with a long ball or a first-time ball and try and nick a goal. Exactly what we did. I don't think that team was set up. We had no striker. There was people playing out of position. We didn't have the right people in the right place. I thought the tactics was excellent, and it was all a matter. It was just a matter of players putting the effort in. And I thought that first half, say for about 50, 55 minutes, I thought they were doing excellent. I did. I honestly thought they were doing excellent with what they had.
A lot of people out there who have mentioned tactics and they don't agree with the tactics and how Manchester United set up. I'd just like to know what your feelings were at half-time when Manchester United were actually winning 1-0, which I didn't expect before the game, looking at the starting 11, looking at the bench. But I'd just like to know your thoughts and feelings of the tactics when we were winning 1-0 at half-time, because I've got to be honest, I was over the moon. Yeah. I was excited then going into the second half. I knew it was going to be tough because you're playing a world-class team, probably, in my opinion, the best team in the world right now. But I thought, you know, they'd done a good job in the first half, Manchester United, in containing Manchester City. Yeah,
well, of course they did. Yeah. They battled for it, they worked for it. The goal, obviously, give them a lift and all that. But, look, Erik ten Hag wants attacking football, but we're not capable of it. We're just not good enough. And with the players, what was available to him, I don't see how he could set up an attacking side against City. Who actually goes there week in, week out and sets up attacking against Manchester City? You open up against City, then you're destroyed. Manchester United, the complaint about Erik ten Hag and the team and the way they set up all season has been, even last season, when United open up, they cut through the middle because there's just big gaps. You can't go to City and have big gaps. He did what he had to do, and then unfortunately, as the second half wore on, United just faded.
For me, the tactics
in a lot of areas.
Yeah, for me, just looking on the tactics, I've not watched the game back because it's a bit of a sore one at the minute. But it was as though Manchester United tried forcing City out wide a lot of the time, and you've seen some of the fullbacks when their wide players got the ball, they weren't going straight over to him because they didn't want to leave the gaps between themselves and the centre-halves because they wanted to close that middle so City couldn't play through us. Yeah,
well, if you look at Rashford and you look at Garnacho, they played in. They didn't stay on the wings. Yeah. They played inside, which then forced, and that's what happened. And it worked for United. Yeah. But there was nothing else from there because the personnel, what was on the pitch and on the bench, couldn't change. Erik ten Hag couldn't change what he was doing. He turned round. I've heard him say that Johnny Evans wanted to play, was injured. Rashford
had a fantastic game yesterday, I thought, Johnny Evans.
Fantastic. Rashford, he's saying Rashford was injured, but played with an injury, carried on. You know, I'm not too sure about what type of injury he had, but at the end of the day, the tactics, they were all he could do to start that game and then hope that we could take our chances.
You've also got to look at, we didn't even have one left footer in the team yesterday in the starting 11. And then you've got a centre-half in Lindelof playing left-back. You know, there was a couple of moments in that first half where he's putting floated balls into the middle, which, you know, the wrong decisions, in my opinion. And, yeah, just the whole balance of the team wasn't right. We know that. But from the tools that he had to pick from, I think it was the best he could have done. I really do. You can't go man for man against Manchester City unless you're Liverpool or even Arsenal in the hope of actually getting the 3 points.
Yeah, I look at it as a United fan and I look to myself, what's been going on before Christmas, after Christmas and that. Like, losing to City isn't the problem for Erik ten Hag. Losing at home to Fulham is the problem.
Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, away to Nottingham Forest, at home to Brighton. I think they're the results that he needs to be judged on. A poor Champions League campaign, finishing bottom of the group.
Not just him judged on.
No, well, I don't know. He's the manager. The manager should take the brunt of the actual results, to be honest with you, in my opinion. But, you know, when he's playing the best side in the world, you know, with the players that he's got available, I don't think it's that game that he should be judged on.
No.
And it shouldn't really be judged on games against really Liverpool as well, even though we've been spanked by Liverpool last season. And, you know, we come away with a decent draw with what players we got available back at Christmas time. But, yeah, for me, he needs to do much better, Erik ten Hag. But I wouldn't be judging him on yesterday's game.
Listen, I look at it there and I don't think Erik ten Hag losing to City won't have changed anything inside that club on how they're thinking about Erik ten Hag and certain players in there. That result yesterday changed absolutely nothing. And like I say here, that they're not capable of taking on a team like City. They're just not good enough. And they're not good enough and not capable of taking on a lot of sides in this league.
I also think that some of the players need to take responsibility for yesterday as well. You know, you look at the wide players, Garnacho and Rashford. You know, after Rashford's world-class moment, which has been Moments FC throughout the season for Man United in getting some of the results. You know, did they do enough really throughout the game in the attacking third? I don't really think so, to be honest with you. Garnacho, over the last few games, I've been noticing more often than not now, he's sort of like running into players when he's trying to take the full-backs on to try and get to the byline. He must be just going through a bit of a dip in form. But, you know, Rashford again, you know, did he do enough over the...
Look, we know them two didn't play well yesterday.
Yeah.
Very hard. I mean, you've got to look. Garnacho is taking on a great side. He's playing a different type of football yesterday. He was holding within himself. He wasn't going out, but what he did do, didn't do it well. And I go through it. Just not good enough. They can't play 90 minutes. And, you know, yous out there have said it many, many times. From game to game, you just don't know what you're getting. But you have to take into context. We was playing the best team around in Manchester City. And going there and trying to get anything was hard. But then you've
got to look at all the players as well. And you've got to, me personally, come away from it thinking there wasn't one of them players who played yesterday who didn't put in the effort. I think they all worked hard, every single one of them.
Yeah. Listen, they worked hard in certain parts of the game. You know, you mentioned Rashford, you mentioned Garnacho. Yeah, there were certain parts of the game they worked hard, but there were some players who worked hard all game, you know, and there were some good performances, right, yesterday in that team. At the end of the day, you'll have to look at them. Good performances, but some of them players who put in good performances won't be here next year, aren't good enough. I mean, if you look at that team yesterday, would any of them get in the Manchester City team? That's how you have to look at it, I know. No. And that's when you look at the result and you say, it's not changed anyone's thinking inside the club, that result, because them players on the pitch just aren't good enough to compete against Manchester City. They weren't before. And they're not going to be for the rest of the season.
Well, you're talking about decisions inside the club, etc. I'm not too sure if some of you have seen Paul Scholes' comments after the match, but he did say that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has already decided to part ways with Erik ten Hag. And he says what we're seeing is a million miles away from a team that should be challenging for the league. Every single season, it's just so far away. I think they, meaning INEOS, have already made their mind up. I don't think he'll be here next season. No.
It's just, I listen to him and, you know, I look at what he's saying there, and before INEOS come in, I said what normally happens, and he said the same, that what normally happens, they do change the managers. It's normal for someone to come in, clean sweep, and get rid of the manager. He's talking about the body language of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, you know, not really jumping in on Erik ten Hag, the language and all that. But he fears for Erik ten Hag, and he thinks he's going at the end of the season. He also acknowledges that last year did great under the circumstances, did great, cup final, getting into the Champions League. But since then, it's not been good enough. But he also acknowledges the difficulty, what he's had this year. Yeah. And the difficulties has been, what kind of back four have we had? It's not been consistent. The too many injuries, everything else like that. Injuries right round the team. Erik ten Hag has had a bad hand dealt with him this year, but he's not done himself any favours. And I go back, he's not done himself any favours, and he acknowledged this as well. There is no plan B. Scholes is saying that. You know, you don't know what you're getting from game to game. He's acknowledging that, Scholes. So that's not the way to carry on. There has to be a style. Paul Scholes said it, we've said it, you've said it. There has to be a style. So when someone does come in and get a chance in the team, he knows what he's doing. And you're only getting moments in games. He acknowledges that. The other people on the panel acknowledge that. What you're seeing with Manchester United is moments in games. Erik ten Hag should have had a style by now. And that's one of the things he believes they're looking at and saying, well, look, last year, fine. Yeah. This year, where's the style? We don't see a style. He's had long enough. That's how he sees it.
Yeah, and is it also when you're looking at teams above us, like even Tottenham and Aston Villa, even if they do have injuries, yeah, there might be a drop-off in quality like all teams have when they've got to go to the next selection, but they still play that style of play, what their strongest starting 11 do. But we're not really seeing that here at Manchester United, even when we're starting with our strongest starting 11, which, let's face it, what's it been, probably once or twice, 2-3 games this season, that's all he's had.
Well, Scholes goes on about the style. You know, you don't know what you're getting. He really hammers that point home. You don't know what you're getting, and we should know what we're getting. We should have a style. So that is a criticism, and a valid criticism of Erik ten Hag. The injuries and that, the other teams aren't using the injuries as an excuse, because we can see with our own eyes, there isn't a style. We're having moments, 10, 15 minutes in a game, then 10 minutes in the rest of the game. That's all we're having. And then we're having to defend, you know, and Scholes does make a point. You know, we brought in Onana, someone who ten Hag knows. He brought him in to play football at the back, right, so we can pass it out and everything. Well, first, he's brought in a goalkeeper, and he's not doing it.
I said this the other week. The only time I've seen Onana playing it out from the back, from what I was led to believe he would do, was against Arsenal away.
Yeah, well,
that's the only time I've seen him really constantly playing it short out to either the centre half or the full-backs or someone into midfield, whereas the majority of the time he does tend to go long with it.
Yeah,
and a couple of times you sort of seen something yesterday with Bruno Fernandes making a couple of runs and Onana finding him with goal kicks. You know, maybe that was a bit of a tactic to try and get up the pitch. You know, we've seen it recently in a couple of games against Luton with Delo, doing something similar from a goal kick with Onana. So there was some sort of like tactic there, something that had been worked on in training. But again, you know, you're coming up against the best team in the world. You know, once that happens once or twice, it won't happen a third time.
No, well, the thing is, that was the tactic. And what it is, he's brought the goalkeeper in, right, to play football at the back, to bring it out and all that. And it's not there. The style's not there. And this is a goalkeeper he trusts. He knows him. He talks about Anthony, Paul Scholes, saying, well, this is a player he's brought in, who he knows, who he relies on. £88 million. And this is what you've got. A player who's on the bench. A player on the bench. you know.
I do think with some of his signings, though, Erik ten Hag, he has actually misjudged the Premier League.
Paul Scholes was saying that.
I don't know if he has or not, but
he seems to have misjudged Anthony by relying on him and sort of saying, this is a great player. Same with Onana, you know. But Onana's had the problems because of what's in front of him. Last couple of games, I thought he's been playing decent football, to be honest with you, Onana. But the tactics and the style, Onana was brought in and it's not being implemented.
yeah, Roy Keane also said yesterday, I'll just read off a little snippet. He said, I think it's more to credit Manchester City than being too critical of Manchester United. United will have to take their medicine today.
Yeah.
Huge question marks around this team, but also the manager. And I think he sums it up perfectly there for me, to be honest.
I think after any loss, there's, you know, there's always questions about the manager, but this manager is under big problems. And I go back to it, losing against City, right, isn't the problem. It's losing against your Bournemouth, your Fulhams and things like that. It's 11 defeats now, and it's not producing a style of football. That's the problem Erik ten Hag's got. So, and I keep repeating myself, losing to City isn't the problem. What INEOS have got, Sir Jim Ratcliffe have got, the problem was already there. They will have already looked at it. This won't have changed their mind. And I did say, and I've said many times, that INEOS coming in, I do believe that they will change the manager because that's what they do. And Paul Scholes is reiterating that in his conversation yesterday in the wake of the defeat, that they're looking at him and losing against Fulham. It's not acceptable, not for Manchester United to get up there, and the style of football is not acceptable when you can't see it, when you don't know what you're getting from week to week. That is not acceptable for Manchester United, and he believes, Paul Scholes, that INEOS have already earmarked him for the door. And there's plenty of things to say and back it up, the reason why Erik ten Hag can get out at the end of the season. But there's also other things mitigating to say, well, Erik ten Hag deserves one more year till the end of his contract.
Just your own personal opinion, but do you think conversations behind the scenes have already been had with Erik ten Hag about his future at Manchester United?
Yeah.
Any like guarantees that he will be at the start of next season, no matter what happens from now until the end of the season?
There's no guarantees in life. Everyone knows that. There is no guarantees in life. But I think the conversations have gone on. We've heard Erik ten Hag talk about planning for the transfers in the summer. And, you know, lots of things Erik ten Hag said. They've got on well with INEOS and Sir Jim. He said it, they're working well together and all that. And I do believe that they are. But there's no guarantees here. Anything could change at any time. And at the end of the day, I have to look at it, and I think a lot of other United fans have looked at it as well. What is the point? That's the question I'm asking you out there. What is the point, year after year, manager after manager, changing him and all that, and now getting rid of another manager? Surely there's a time you have to say, look, stop it. Let's just see where we go. We'll get a team in behind Erik ten Hag, professional, proper footballing people, and then let's work on it and let's develop it. At the end of the day, at some point, it has to stop. I'm not saying, you know, really, is Erik ten Hag going? Is he staying and all that? Because like I've just said, you know, there's no guarantees in life here. I believe he should be given that year, because changing managers all the time is not working here at Manchester United. So I think that extra year, I don't think we've got anything to lose, to be honest with you.
Well, Erik ten Hag has also said he's on the same page as INEOS in terms of how they want the Manchester United style of play to be. And he seems to get it. He says he does, in being like proactive, etc. This high pressing, what we all want to see. So then shouldn't he be given that third year to then implement that?
Yeah, I believe he should be given the third year, okay? But when Erik ten Hag comes out, and a lot of people have said in the comments over the last weeks, months, right, Erik ten Hag coming out isn't making sense at times after matches or in press conferences when he's coming out with statements. Okay, there's loads of things there he said, and yesterday coming out, it was margin. Erik ten Hag yesterday after the match was talking about, and it was coming across as though we was unlucky. We was unlucky not to get a result, not to win, not to be 2-0 up and all that. It didn't make sense to me. We was hanging on, right, soon as we scored the goal, to be honest with you. That's the way it looked to me, and that there was no way we could come out. We was always under pressure, and once the second half come, they got the goal. It was just a matter of time then, wearing down. But then United's deficiencies come in. That's the way it is.
Yeah, he did say after the game, and he was asked if the result showed a gulf in class between the two teams, two clubs. And he said, I don't think so. Absolutely not. We have many problems with injuries, and still we had an opportunity. With a really small margins, we could have scored a second goal. When we have everyone on board, we can be competitive.
No.
But we want more than being competitive, don't we? Long term.
We've had everyone on board. There's no style of play. We don't see anything out on the pitch for 90 minutes. When everyone's been fit, which hasn't been often this season, right? We've actually not seen a style of play. It's not working. The players aren't working together. It's not right.
Do you not think they were working together after seeing that yesterday?
What?
Do you not think they were working together yesterday in what you've seen? I know, look, it was a very defensive shape, to say the least, but do you not think they were working together yesterday?
They were committed. They were committed. They were committed to holding out, okay, and just trying to get the ball over the top. There was plenty of commitment there, and you've got to give them that. They're just not capable of doing anything. They're not capable. They're not good enough. It's as simple as that. That was the gulf. We knew that before City. We're not turning around and saying, oh, Man United are rubbish because they got beat against City. We know they're not good enough, but there's plenty of reasons as well to say why we're not good enough, okay? But Erik ten Hag, in my opinion, isn't doing himself any favours by trying to bluff us by turning round and saying, oh, well, this should have happened or this should have happened. No, you know.
But do you think Erik ten Hag's got it in the back of his mind as well? If he does actually come out and say exactly what some of us are thinking, or the majority of us are thinking, in terms of how we see this team performing, he might feel like a lot of these players might start downing tools, like we've seen with other managers in the past.
I think what Erik ten Hag's trying to do when he's backing players, when he backs Rashford, that backing Rashford just does not make any sense to me whatsoever. And there's a few other players out there, okay? You know, a lot of yous would go, well, he's backing Anthony. He's turning around and saying he's superb, class player.
Well, he did say he was unstoppable at one point.
Well, that's superb.
He can be.
In other words, he's superb, right? Doesn't make sense to any of us now, okay? Because Anthony just doesn't seem to be able to do it. 1 goal and 1 assist all season. Unstoppable player. That comment does not make sense. So he's doing himself no favours here, okay? All I see, Erik ten Hag, is trying to limp along and get to the end of the season, hang on to his job, change it in the summer, have the right people behind him, and then move forward. That's how I see it. And at the end of the day, we're going to see some performances right through to the end of the season here.
So do you not think that if there was to change the manager, even from now, or even have a new manager at the start of the season, next season, you'd see an improvement in team performance, an improvement in a style of play? Do you think he'd be able to get the best out of Marcus Rashford, the best out of Bruno Fernandes and other players?
A new manager, if he come in now?
Even now or at the start of next season, do you not think he'd be able to show a more capable side?
Who, a new manager?
Yeah.
You don't want a new manager now because he's got no chance with these players, okay, with this squad. It's an unfit squad, right? It's a squad what's always, players are getting injured. We don't know why they're getting injured. We don't get any news on what type of injury it is or anything. You know, you look at Aaron Wan-Bissaka, you know, next thing you know, he's ready to come back. He's injured. You know, Mason Mount. Oyland's injured again. Keeps going. Malacia, we haven't got a clue. Any manager coming in now, right, hasn't got a chance to deal and try and change the style of football or improve it. Just hasn't got a chance.
I agree.
So, the reality of it is here, we're all waiting, as I see it, till the end of the season to see if INEOS are going to stick with him and change everything. That's all we can do. Me, as I said before, I keep saying it, keep changing your managers don't make sense to me. He's got 1 more year of his contract. He's had a bad hand at some stages, but he's not helping himself. I have to acknowledge that. And his after-match comments ain't helping him lately. So at the end of the day, we've just got to sit and wait and then hope that we can produce some good football till the end of the season. Still in the FA Cup. That's one thing.
Yeah. Just going into the chat, Mick Cypher, cheers for your super chat, mate. He says, agree with Scholes. Erik ten Hag, one of many low-quality signings by Murto and co. INEOS needs a clean slate and their own management team, including coach.
Yeah, well, that's the way it might look. I did say, lots of people have said, and this is what normally happens. Clean slate, their own people in charge, get rid of everyone. That's the coach, coaches, manager, you name it, the lot. They all go. They might not go straight away, but they do go. So that's the problem at the end of the season. And if it is, it is. It's just something what's going to happen. Me personally, I keep saying it, you know where I am.
Yeah, FC in the chat says, if you think a new manager is going to get the best out of players that were signed for the XXX managers, then I don't know what to tell you. And he's got a point.
Well, I've just said that.
Yeah, it's a mix of players from previous managers all being brought into one manager now under Erik ten Hag. He wants to play a totally different style to the previous managers.
Well, we've had that time and time again. And that's the one thing I think what might save Erik ten Hag. And that's because he's dealing with lots of other managers, players, what are still there, what shouldn't be there, what players are on big contracts, don't want to go, don't want to do it. Do you know what I mean? There's loads of players there what shouldn't be there, right? While Erik ten Hag wants to play attacking football because these players can't do it.
Do you think next season, you know, obviously this is thinking Erik ten Hag's still going to be here, but do you think he still can compete next season and the season after with the likes of Arteta, the likes of Unai Emery and the likes of Pep Guardiola?
You say still compete. We can't compete.
No, I mean compete with him.
We can't compete with him. Not good enough. We're not going to change this summer.
But do you think Erik ten Hag as a manager, tactically, when he's got all his players fit and he's got his strongest starting 11, you know, when he's got his strongest starting 11, we expect results as Manchester United fans. That's the demands.
Yes, that's the demands.
So do you think he can compete with them in the dugout going forward?
At the moment, no. But I don't think he's got the right personnel, the right players on the pitch. I think this is going to take a while. I don't think he can compete. There's not many people.
Sometimes in one-off games, though, we see it every single season.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's different. And then one-off games, we can get beat 7-0 by Liverpool as well. So it works both ways. A one-off game is a one-off game. You know, football's not about one-off game. This is long-term. And I'm looking at long-term. And I'm thinking, will INEOS keep him and look long-term?
Well, that's what I'm thinking as well, long-term.
Or will they get rid?
You know, you look at Erik ten Hag compared to them managers. You know, is he the man who's got that stature about him to take this club forward when you're looking at managers in the opposition's dugout?
If you look at Klopp and you look at Pep, they're loud. They're loud in what they do, what they say. Erik ten Hag isn't. Different personality. Is that the right personality for Man United going forward? It might not be. It might not be. I mean, if you look at Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the people behind there, these are loud people, big, brash. They want everything. Does Erik ten Hag actually suit going forward what Man United are all about? Hey, we're on top of the world. Look at us. Look at our manager. He's out there. He's shouting and bawling. You know, he's full of it.
The only thing I look at Nice, who they've got over there, and their manager over there is De Zerbi's ex-assistant.
Yeah, but you see, who are these people?
When you're looking at style of play and stuff like that, they've already said INEOS, the manager's going to be coming in and he's going to be playing the style of play for Manchester United and what they want. It's not going to be the manager's own style of play. The manager will have to come in and adapt to how they want to play football.
Yeah, but is it right to bring in a new manager in the summer, right, when that manager isn't going to get his players and we might not be able to get rid of the players we need to get rid of? The cycle goes over and over again. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get it.
That's what I'm saying. Do you know what I mean? But the people in the background might be signing the players and not Erik ten Hag in the summer. So they might have a focus further down the line.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Anything to add, though, before we go?
No, I think you've just got to look at that City game, take it as it was. There was commitment there by lots of players. In the end, they faded. It was poor, people getting injured, and the players coming on just weren't able to change the game. And at the end of the day, I thought 45 minutes there, you look at it at our time, absolutely delighted. Was we surprised about the result? I wasn't surprised about the result. I just look back at games and think to myself, beating Villa, right? Beating Villa, I thought to myself, we had a chance, and then you go and get beat by Fulham. They're the games what you should be really moaning about and sort of looking at and saying, why did we get beat against Fulham? Not getting beat against Manchester City. There's no disgrace getting beat by Manchester City. No. It's a disgrace getting beat by Fulham and teams like Bournemouth when you want to challenge, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, just like to end on that. I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us today. I had a bit of a chat about anything and everything today, didn't we, really? There was no real structure to it. The only thing I do know is we needed to have a chat with all yous out there, and I'm sure yous did as well. If there's no real structure to it, that's what people have been saying about Erik ten Hag's football, the direction and the style. Yeah. So we're going along with Erik ten Hag method at the moment. Yeah. No real structure to it. Well, I think we need to get a sporting director in then and get a structure to our channel. Well, that'll be me out. Well, if any of you want to apply for the job, let us know in the chat. But yeah, I'd just like to thank every one of you today. Yeah. If you've enjoyed the video, leave a like on it and share the video. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.